It was the no heard round the world, but not the one you think. Back in 2012, when a shy 17-year-old in a Jimi Hendrix t-shirt stood before the Britain's Got Talent judges, the narrative was immediately written for him. We were told it was a Cinderella story, but behind the scenes, a much darker industry power play was unfolding. Simon Cowell's infamous suggestion that Jonathan should ditch his partner Charlotte wasn't just a momentary critique for the sake of television drama. It was a calculated move to see if the young tenor could be easily manipulated. Sources close to the production at the time suggest that the pressure to go solo started the second the cameras stopped rolling. Jonathan found himself at a crossroads that would break most veteran performers. Follow the money and the solo stardom being dangled by a multi-million-dollar machine, or stay loyal to the person who stood by him during his darkest school years. He chose loyalty, a move that reportedly frustrated label executives who wanted a cleaner marketing image. This act of defiance set the tone for a decade of friction between Jonathan and the traditional music industry. While the public saw a heartwarming duo, Jonathan was already beginning to feel the suffocating weight of being a product. The industry tried to mold him into a safe, predictable classical crossover act, but Jonathan's refusal to abandon his roots or his partner hinted at a rebellious streak that wouldn't fully surface for another 14 years. He wasn't just fighting for his friend. He was fighting for the right to control his own narrative in a world that wanted to sell a filtered version of his soul. While his voice was soaring to the top of the charts, Jonathan Antoine was quietly descending into a personal hell that nearly led him to off his own career. For years, the media labeled him as difficult or painfully shy, but the reality was far more complex. It wasn't until much later that the public learned about his autism diagnosis, a revelation that reframed every awkward interview and missed appearance in his history. Imagine being wired to experience sensory input at a 10, while the world of international fame is constantly screaming at an 11. The flashing lights, the intrusive questions, and the relentless schedule weren't just tiring, they were physically painful. This period was marked by what many close to him described as a total shutdown. There were whispers in the industry that he might never return to the stage, with rumors of severe depressive episodes and a complete withdrawal from public life. He has since been open about the fact that he struggled with thoughts of giving up entirely, using indirect phrasing to describe the moments he felt he couldn't go on. This wasn't just a celebrity break. It was a fight for survival. The diagnosis of being on the spectrum served as the missing piece of the puzzle, allowing him to finally stop apologizing for how his brain worked. By the time we reached the mid-2020s, Jonathan had transformed this perceived disability into his greatest strength, using his hyperfocus to master vocal techniques that other singers wouldn't attempt in a lifetime. But the road to this clarity was paved with internal conflicts that would have shattered a lesser man. There is a long-standing, almost superstitious belief in the world of opera. If you lose the weight, you lose the voice. In 2024 and 2025, Jonathan Antoine decided to put that theory to the ultimate test, and the results have left the medical and musical communities in total shock. Jonathan's weight had been his protective armor for years, a physical barrier between him and a judgmental world. However, as he approached 2026, his health journey became a matter of life or death. He didn't just embark on a celebrity diet. He underwent a total metabolic reconstruction. Fans watched in real time as the man they knew disappeared, replaced by a lean, athletic version of the singer. This sparked a wave of online speculation, with critics claiming he was exposed as having lost the resonance and thump that his larger frame provided. The rumor mill was working overtime, suggesting that his new physique would make it impossible to support the massive operatic notes that made him famous. But when he finally stepped back onto the stage in early 2026, he didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them. His lung capacity had actually increased, and his control over his instrument was more precise than ever. He proved that the power didn't come from the bulk, but from the breath. This transformation was more than just aesthetic. It was a symbolic shedding of his old life. He was no longer the big kid with the big voice. He was a disciplined athlete of the arts. This change sent a clear message to his doubters. Jonathan Antoine was no longer hiding behind anything, not his clothes, not his partner, and certainly not his weight. By 2026, the biggest shock in the music world wasn't Jonathan's voice, but his bank account, and who was, and filling it. After years of being tied to major label contracts that saw him receiving only a fraction of his true value, Jonathan made a move that sent ripples through the corporate music world. He went completely independent. Using the power of his global fan community, he bypassed the gatekeepers who once told him what to wear and what to sing. This wasn't just a career shift, it was a financial revolution. He began to utilize direct-to-fan platforms to fund his most ambitious projects, including his 2026 masterpiece, All of Me. The industry was exposed as being unnecessary for a talent of his magnitude. By owning his masters and controlling his own touring schedule, Jonathan achieved a level of freedom that 99% of artists only dream of. This independence allowed him to experiment with genres that labels previously deemed too risky for a classical artist. We started seeing a fusion of operatic power with contemporary, almost cinematic production. The re-debut of 2026 saw him performing in venues that he chose, singing songs he loved, and interacting with fans on his own terms. There were no more handlers, no more PR scripted answers, and no more middlemen taking the lion's share of his hard work. He effectively offed the old model of stardom and built a new one from the ground up. This version of Jonathan Antoine is dangerous to the status quo because he proves that if you have the talent and the community, the titans of the industry are obsolete. As we stand here in 2026, the question is no longer, whatever happened to that boy from BGT? But rather, is Jonathan Antoine the last true vocal powerhouse of our generation? In an era dominated by auto-tune and artificial intelligence, Jonathan represents something increasingly rare: raw, unadulterated human capability. His journey from a bullied teenager to a self-made global icon is more than just a success story. It's a blueprint for modern artistry. He has navigated the SHT of the tabloid press, the DMN, near-impossible standards of the classical world, and the personal demons of his own mind to emerge as a singular force. The 2026 verdict is clear. He is no longer a crossover act or a novelty. He is a master of his craft who has successfully bridged the gap between the old world and the new. His legacy will not be defined by the gold records or the viral auditions, but by his refusal to be broken by a system designed to exploit him. He has faced accusations of being unmarketable and rumors of fading away, only to return stronger, leaner, and more vocal than ever before. As we look toward the future of music, Jonathan Antoine stands as a lighthouse for every misfit who has ever been told they don't belong. He didn't just find his voice, he forced the world to finally listen to it on his own terms. The evolution is complete, but for Jonathan, the song is only just beginning. The shy boy is officially dead, and in his place stands one of the greatest voices to